My daughter-in-law left on a business trip, and my son, who hadn't walked in 6 years, walked into the kitchen and said, "We have to leave now." The morning my daughter-in-law left for a supposed business trip to Denver, Colorado, I thought the house would finally have some peace. I watched her get into the taxi with her 2 ivory-colored suitcases, check her phone one last time, and wave goodbye with a perfect smile. "It'll only be 10 days, Don Roberto. Take good care of Caleb," I replied with a polite smile. As the taxi disappeared at the end of the street, I closed the door slowly. I had no idea that goodbye would change our lives forever. My name is Roberto Salazar. I am 68 years old. I was a homicide detective in San Antonio, Texas, for over 30 years. I thought I had seen every possible form of evil. I was wrong. The worst was living under my own roof. My son Caleb was 43 years old. Before the accident, he was a high school football coach. He was a strong man, respected, and full of energy. For 5 consecutive years, he led his team to regional championships. Parents trusted him. Students admired him. He was one of those people who light up any room they enter. Until that rainy night when a truck lost control on a highway and crashed directly into the driver's side. The surgery lasted nearly 12 hours. The doctors said there were real possibilities for recovery with intensive rehabilitation. But everything changed when Laura appeared. My daughter-in-law, from day one, took absolute control. She chose the doctors, managed the medications, answered all the calls, signed all the documents. She barely allowed anyone to speak with Caleb alone. I thought she was just a devoted wife. I never imagined anything else. When I retired, I decided to move in with them. Every morning, I helped my son get up, sat him in his wheelchair, and prepared breakfast while Laura organized his pills with an almost obsessive precision. She always said the same thing. "These medicines keep his nervous system stable." Over time, I noticed something strange. Caleb always seemed drowsy. At 9 in the morning, he could barely keep his eyes open. After lunch, he hardly spoke, and before 8 at night, he was already sound asleep. The doctors assured us it was normal. I believed them. For 6 years, I had no reason to doubt, until that morning. I made coffee, turned on the television. I was thinking of taking Caleb out to the garden for some fresh air. The silence was different. The house felt light, without arguments, without orders, without Laura's constant presence controlling everything. Then I heard a thud. It wasn't the sound of the wheelchair. It was much heavier, like someone trying to brace themselves against a wall. I ran down the hallway. What I saw made the coffee cup fall from my hands, shattering on the floor. I didn't even look at it. Caleb was standing. He was bracing both hands against the wall, his entire body trembling. His legs could barely support him, but he was standing. For 6 years, he hadn't taken a single step. Now he was breathing hard, trying to stay upright. I felt my heart stop for an instant. Caleb slowly turned his head. His eyes were completely different. There was no confusion, no sleepiness, no that lost look I saw every day. For the first time in 6 years, my son was fully awake. He stared at me and, with a hoarse voice, barely managed to say, "Dad, we don't have much time. We have to leave now." I didn't ask anything. I just ran to him, holding him before he fell. Every step seemed an impossible effort. We moved slowly down the hallway until we reached the front door. When I finally helped him into my truck, he closed his eyes for a few seconds, trying to catch his breath. I started the engine, but before pulling away, I looked at him. "Son, what's going on?" He opened his eyes, took a deep breath, and uttered a phrase that made my entire life lose meaning. "Dad, I was never completely paralyzed, and Laura made sure you never discovered the truth." I remained motionless behind the wheel. Caleb's words kept echoing in my head, "never completely paralyzed." I looked at him, unable to speak. "What did you just say?" He breathed with difficulty, still exhausted from the enormous effort of walking. He looked out the window to make sure no one was watching us. Then he turned back to me. "Dad, the accident was real, the injury too, but the doctor said I could recover with months of intensive therapy." A chill ran down my spine. "Then why did you never get better?" Caleb lowered his gaze. "Because Laura never allowed that to happen. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. Only the truck's engine could be heard. Finally, he began to tell me the whole truth. The first few months after the accident were normal. He received physical therapy, and the doctors were satisfied with his progress. He had even managed to move his legs slightly. But one day, everything changed. Laura insisted on changing specialists, claiming she had found a more qualified doctor. From then on, they stopped taking him to the rehabilitation center. The therapy ended overnight. In its place, new medications began: pills in the morning, syrups in the afternoon, capsules before bed. Every week, a different treatment appeared. She assured us it was necessary, and I never doubted her. Caleb continued speaking. At first, I thought the medications were normal, but little by little, I stopped feeling like myself. I couldn't concentrate. I slept almost all day. I forgot entire conversations. Some mornings, I didn't even remember what I'd eaten the day before. It was like living inside a fog. I felt a lump in my throat. I remembered every one of those mornings when I saw him completely disoriented. I always thought it was a consequence of the accident. I never imagined another explanation. 4 months ago, something unexpected happened, Caleb continued. One night, Laura left her laptop open on the desk while she showered. I managed to get close using the wheelchair. I wasn't looking for anything in particular, just wanted to distract myself. Then I found a password-protected folder. The password was their anniversary date. When I opened it, I discovered dozens of financial documents. There were contracts, bank transfers, account statements, and photographs of properties I had never seen. The strangest thing was that all of them were solely in Laura's name. I didn't understand where all that money had come from. I tried to ask her. She replied with a smile, saying they belonged to a family investment, but that answer didn't convince me. From that moment, I started observing every one of her movements. I discovered that every night, after I fell asleep, Laura left the house for several hours. She always said she was going to the gym or had work dinners, but she never came back in workout clothes, never carried office documents, and always returned before dawn. Something didn't add up. So I made a decision. I started hiding the pills under my tongue, waiting for Laura to leave the room, then spitting them out in the bathroom sink. Then, the first few days, nothing happened. But a week later, I started feeling different. I slept less, thought clearly, and recovered memories I thought were lost. And one night, while everyone was asleep, I tried to stand up. I fell to the floor. I tried again the next night, and again, and again, and again. For weeks, I practiced completely alone, holding onto the wall, dragging my legs across the floor, without anyone discovering me. Until one night, I managed to stay standing for almost a minute. Tears began to stream down my face. My son had fought completely alone while I slept just a few feet away, suspecting absolutely nothing. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked. Caleb closed his eyes. "Because I didn't know who I could trust. I thought maybe you would believe her too, or that you would try to confront her before having proof, and then she would find another way to stop me." I fell silent. I knew he was right. For 6 years, I myself had defended Laura in front of the entire family. Then, Caleb pulled a small envelope hidden inside his jacket and placed it on the dashboard. Inside was a silver key and a note written in his own handwriting. It simply said one address. "What is this?" I asked. Caleb replied with a worried look. "It's the place where Laura keeps the only thing that can prove who she really is. If we get there too late, everything will disappear forever." I looked up, turned on the GPS. The address was nearly 40 minutes away. Without wasting a second, I accelerated. Neither of us imagined that someone was already following us for several kilometers. I drove as fast as I could. Every red light seemed to last an eternity. I kept checking the rearview mirror. Then I saw it. A black SUV had been behind us for several minutes. No matter how many streets I changed, it was still there. "Caleb, I think we're being followed." My son slowly turned his head, his face lost whatever little color it had left. "That's the same vehicle I used to see some nights when Laura came home late." I didn't reply. I pressed the accelerator. After 40 minutes, we arrived at an old abandoned industrial complex on the outskirts of San Antonio. In front of one of the buildings was a small warehouse with a rusty padlock. Caleb took out the key. It took him several tries to open the door. When we finally entered, I turned on my phone's flashlight. The place was full of boxes, filing cabinets, and computer equipment. On a table there were several perfectly organized folders, but what really caught my attention was a large board covered with photographs. There were images of Caleb, of me, of our house, of our daily movements. Everything was annotated with dates and times. It was clear that someone had been watching us for years. A chill ran down my spine. As we searched through the folders, we found falsified contracts, hidden bank accounts, and documents proving that Laura had sold properties using forged signatures. There were also audio recordings. In one of them, Laura's voice was clearly heard. "As long as he remains dependent on me, no one will ask questions." Caleb lowered his head. Those words confirmed all his fears. Suddenly we heard an engine stop outside. The lights of a vehicle illuminated the warehouse entrance. I turned off the flashlight immediately. Someone was coming in. Footsteps approached. I looked around for an exit. There was only a back door. I grabbed Caleb's arm. We moved forward in silence. When we opened the back door, we saw a police cruiser parked on the other side of the alley. Without wasting time, I raised both hands. "Officer, we need help." The agents ran toward us. We showed them the documents, the recordings, and all the evidence we had just found. While we were talking, the man who had entered through the front door tried to escape. The police stopped him before he could get into the black SUV. Hours later, the investigations began. Detectives discovered that the man worked for a company created by Laura using fake identities. The evidence found in the warehouse was enough to obtain court orders. That same day, they raided several offices and bank accounts linked to her. Laura was located when she tried to return from her supposed business trip. In reality, she had never attended any conference. She had traveled to close the sale of assets acquired with illegally obtained money. Weeks later, she was charged with fraud, document forgery, illegal appropriation of assets, and conspiracy. During the trial, she tried to blame everyone else, but the evidence spoke for itself. Nothing could save her. For Caleb, a much more important path began: recovery. He returned to therapy with independent specialists. The first steps were difficult. There were falls, pain, and days when he wanted to give up, but he kept going. A year later, he walked without assistance to the garden of our house. I was sitting on the porch. I watched him walk slowly toward me. When he arrived, he smiled. It was the same smile he had before the accident. I hugged him tightly. We didn't say a single word. We didn't need to. Sometimes the truth takes years to come to light. But when it finally appears, it also opens the door to a new beginning. And that day, I understood that no lie, no matter how perfect it seems, can hide the truth forever. The end.